right. We're back.
We are back. It's the day after.
All right, let's just get right to it.
Yep. For those of you who are YouTubing this, I'm holding up the San Francisco Chronicle, today's edition.
What does that say? Forever champs, spelled out FOUR ever.
Yep. Last night, the Warriors beat the Boston Celtics game 6 of the NBA Finals.
Yes, sir.
Thrilling game.
And
it was quite a season for the Warriors.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be a Warriors fan. We are Warriors fans in this household. My dad's rocking a Clay jersey right now. It's ironic because my dad hasn't even finished watching the actual game. It causes him so much stress and anxiety that he simply cannot bear to watch it live. So last night he was out on a walk, out watching the news, doing anything to avoid knowing what was going on. You came in at like third quarter. We're like, yo, we're good. You came in, you checked the score. It was like, what, 11? You're like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's too close.
Yeah, it was too close. So you watched the first half last night on repeat. And
Right.
Now I walked into the house today. Third quarter was just starting. Celtics were chipping away. It was a little nervy right there. But
yeah,
you have the assurance of knowing what happened, which is
I was getting nervous even knowing the Warriors won. Can I explain?
Yeah.
Okay,
Go for it.
and I don't think this is all that uncommon, although it does sound a little freakish.
It's not freakish.
I'm not able to watch Warrior games. I mean, I'm able to, but I don't enjoy watching them. I get too nervous. I get too stressed out. I'm watching the game and I'm saying to myself, I this is not fun for me. I'm not enjoying it when I'm watching the game live. And so for what I've been doing for the last few years, actually ever since the Warriors got good, is I don't watch the games. I record them, and if the Warriors win, I'll watch, and if not, I won't watch. And my wife, Barry, your mom, she's crazy about the Warriors too. She watches all the games, but she doesn't watch with me. She kind of gets a little upset with me that I leave her alone to watch the games. But she basically, I'll go out for a long walk. I've walked every neighborhood in Oakland. I go for long 5, 6, 7 mile walks during the course of the game. And then Barry will text me at some point, it's safe to come home. The Warriors won or they're up 20 and it's 2 minutes left, but she'll let me know. But so the question is, why do I have this inability to watch the Warriors? And I think I trace it back to the fact that I was a season ticket holder for the Warriors for many years when you were little kids, even before you were born and when you were little kids. And if you remember, or those were really bad years for the Warriors, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they
were not great times.
No, they went 0 for 18 in terms of years not making the playoffs.
Right.
And so my frame of reference when I think of the Warriors, I kind of think of those years and the fact that they're just not any good. They always found a way to lose, sometimes big, sometimes small. But I kind of feel like, oh boy, it's the Warriors. They always lose. So I'm still not used to the fact that they almost always win. So I still get nervous.
Yeah. Well, it's a new era for the Warriors. It's been a new era the last 8-10 years.
Yeah.
Really since we got Steph Curry. Wow. What a guy that guy is.
Yeah. It's interesting because, right now my generation talks about watching Michael Jordan and watching Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
We're witnessing something special.
Yeah, I think we are witnessing one of those iconic, great, once in a generation type players, right?
Yeah.
That you'll be telling your kids, I got to see Steph Curry play live. And wow, you got to see Steph Curry. Like, I got to see Michael Jordan play. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do think, apologize to the non-Warrior fans out here listening. You're going to get a little bit more of it, but we have some interesting takes and perspectives on this, because I do think this championship is unique because, all these guys, yes, they were 3-time champs, but they were counted out at the beginning of this year. And I think whether or not you are at the level of the Warriors dynasty or myself playing in the USL championship, you're playing in college, you're playing any sport at any level of competition, you don't like being counted out.
Yeah.
You hear the naysayers. A lot of people say, oh, these are NBA players. They don't listen to what these talking heads say. You heard last night, these guys had receipts on everything.
That's right.
Steph was making gestures about some people putting up a zero for how many championships Steph was going to win in the next 4 years. He remembered that. Clay was remembering a tweet from Jaren Jackson Jr. in the middle of the year. Draymond remembered everyone, obviously, but it's like, these are the most competitive people in the world for a reason. Yeah. Like they kept the receipts. And I mean, one of the reasons are, obviously I've never won an NBA championship, so I really can't say shit, but like, I feel like one of the reasons why it is so great to win at that level is because nobody can tell you shit. That's like right. You are literally the top of the mountaintop.
That's right. That's right. It's funny because a lot of times when you hear pro athletes being interviewed, they'll say, "Oh, I don't read the newspapers. I don't read Twitter. I don't read the sports page. I don't listen to the critics." They and maybe many of them don't do any of that stuff. But it seems like the Warriors, like you said last night, they were referencing Twitter comments or tweets, stories in the newspaper, interviews, that where people were counting them out. They certainly, there are some Warriors that were definitely listening, reading, paying attention to what the pundits were saying about the Warriors' prospects of winning a championship this year.
Yeah, and no, it's definitely, I want to make a unique parallel, a little bit of a pivot here, and I want to give a little bit of context to our listeners. This is not just a Warriors episode, but this is an episode where we are kind of updating our listeners on what's been going on in both of our lives in the last month. There's reasons why we haven't been putting out our weekly episode.
Because I've been walking around the streets of Oakland.
Yeah, you've been walking around because the Warriors have been doing well. Thank you to the Golden State Warriors for improving my dad's health.
That's right.
And forcing him to go on lengthy walks in this long postseason.
Well, and that's a good point. It is a long postseason. The postseason started in April, I think. April or May.
Yeah.
It lasts like 2 months. So for the last 2 months, I've been a nervous wreck.
Yeah. So here's my pivot though. So we're updating the listeners on all of our lives. So I'm pivoting away from the Warriors. Yo, Warriors, we're a dynasty, whether Bill Simmons, the pod father, says it or not. Love you, Bill, but Warriors are a dynasty. You can't deny it.
I do want to mention that I did get to go to one of the Warrior playoff games.
You did.
A friend of mine, Kevin Morrison, shout out Kevin.
Shout out Kev.
Client, friend. He's got season tickets, and he took me to one of the one of the Memphis games.
Yeah, so you're part of history. But here, finally, to my pivot, we are no longer going to be talking about, well, maybe it'll come up a little bit, but so much the Golden State Warriors dynasty. But now pivoting a little bit to our lives, I had therapy this morning with our Roots therapist, mental performance coach on staff. I had therapy this morning, and we were talking a little bit about my injury and kind of what's been going on mentally there. And, this is a topic that's been discussed just throughout the last few weeks, was intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And I think relating this back to the Warriors dynasty, a lot of these guys, you think, oh, they have millions of dollars. They don't need any more extrinsic motivation. Like right. They've done it all. Their legacy is set.
They have all the accolades.
You can definitely argue that.
Right.
And you could argue they needed a little bit of that extrinsic, like the naysayers, proving the naysayers wrong, to kind of re-spark the intrinsic of like, oh, I know who I am. I need to prove I just want to prove to myself, like, I am this person, like Steph, I'm a finals MVP, whether or not I was awarded the trophy or not. Like, everybody knew his legacy was what it was, but like the naysayers kind of saying that sparked this different motivation. You saw the way he responded, like, to the crowd. And I mean, he was crying with a couple seconds left, like visibly emotional. And it kind of brings me back to my injury, and kind of being out for this lengthy time that it's now been, like different motivations for getting back. And I was talking about this morning how, we go to a lot of Roots games together.
Right.
You're a great fan of the team, and I'm there for work, also to support my guys. But, we see a lot of people walking around the stadium, whether they're people I've known since I'm a kid or just fans of the Roots. And, they'll ask me, when are you coming back? What's your timeline?
Yep.
And, I came from a club where we were the second team, Timbers 2. And so the first team was the main priority. They got all the notoriety in the city, and you kind of tended to minimize who you were because of the stature of the big organization.
Right.
And now that I play for the Roots are the first team. They are the focal point, team in the city now that, a lot of these teams have left. And so, some people might recognize me and remember me from playing last year and a bits of preseason. And I sometimes don't even think that people register that. And so that the fact that I hear other people be like, oh, when are you going to be out there? Like, internally, I'm obviously very motivated. Like, me, I'm a competitor. Right. It fucking kills me, not being out there. But then just hearing someone else be like, oh, like really excited to see you back out there. That's like, it kind of, and I'm obviously not comparing myself to a Warrior, but just hearing that there's some like outside, kind of sparks a little bit of that inside of like, oh, I know I want to get back to proving like who the fuck I am.
Right.
Right.
No, people, I actually, when we go to games together, and due to your injury, we've been to 3 or 4 games together over the last month.
Yeah, fortunately for you, we've gotten to spend a lot. Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy the time, Dad. I really do like watching games with you, but obviously I'd rather be on the field. But we've been to quite a few. It's been a lot.
And trust me, I'd much rather be watching you play than watching with you, see others play. But I'm amazed at how many people will come up to you during the course of a game, and we'll walk around a little bit pre-game. How many people in halftime will come up to you and say, hey, when are you getting back on the field? How's your injury? And I'll ask you, who was that guy? And you say, I don't know.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm a bit amazed as well, because I'm not used to that. That's, but that also just goes to show you the Oakland fan base. Like, shout out to the Oakland Roots fans. Yeah. There's some real ones out there. Definitely, like, more than just fans. Like, these people are supporters of what you do on and off the field in the community. So just, quick shout out to all the Oakland Roots fans out there, especially all the ones that listen to the show. We got people. Also, one of the reasons why we're recording this episode is because in the process of people asking like, oh, what's the timeline? Some people say, hey, love the podcast. Yeah. And even though they didn't say love the podcast, when's the next episode? Just the fact that they've listened, it's like, oh, like I need to keep making this stuff. I want to keep making this stuff because, it's therapeutic for us to make it as well. But it's like, knowing that we have people that listen, that is, means a lot to hear that.
Right. Right. What I suspect is frustrating about your particular injury is that you're motivated, you're dying to get out back on the field, right? And start playing the game. But I think you have the kind of injury where there's only so much you can do. It's not a matter of, okay, you need to go out and rehab it and hit the weight room and do all these exercises to redevelop those muscles. Yeah. It's a patience game, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just going to say a lot of it is patience. And I've definitely had my ups and downs with my patience levels throughout this. And I think, I don't mean to be harping on this morning therapy session I had, but I do think it opened my eyes to a lot of things, and is just always a good exercise in recentering my kind of perspective. But just talking about, recovery being nonlinear, and another word that was used was the impermanence of it. So it's like, for example, recently I got some steroid injections, and a couple of days later, I'm feeling like on top of the moon. I'm feeling invincible, because these things are they were just put in,
put me in, coach, I'm ready to play.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh my God, I'm on top of the moon. And then, 2 days later, some of the effects wear off a little bit, and I'm kind of back to reality. And, mentally, it's like, I go into, a bit of a negative space of like, oh, here I am again, when it's like, you might take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And it's just, it's non-linear. And, we talked about eventually, like I will be good eventually. No state that I'm in is permanent, so just always reminding yourself that is really important. And then also, it's cool that I have, throughout being injured, I get to, I go to physical therapy, I meet with doctors constantly. I meet with our therapists regularly, whether I'm injured or not. But, I am very open and candid about talking about my experiences throughout this, not only because it's beneficial to myself, but I think it's beneficial just to be open and transparent with your communication about how you're feeling. Like they'll always ask me, how are you feeling? First thing they say, whether it's either physical therapy or a lot of times in regular therapy. And I'll say mentally or physically, because I think something that I'm about to talk about, those two are very much intertwined.
Right.
I went to physical therapy, just mentioned yesterday, and I was a bit frustrated given some of my recent feelings. And, we talked about the psychology of pain and how, the way your brain thinks can actually help or influence recovery.
Is that right?
So,
What
yeah. And so,
dive into that a little bit?
well, I mean, I'm no, I'm no cognitive scientist
Right.
or brain scientist here. But don't quote me on this, but like I'm pretty sure there is studies on this where like positive thinking, and
Mhm.
actually there's actually studies about imagery, like
Yep.
using imagery to heal repaired muscles or things like that actually can influence real recovery. And so we just talked about kind of my awareness of that, and potentially the impact that my brain can have on the actual physical recovery that I'm having. And so now being more aware of that, I'm working on this imagery plan with our sports performance coach about how I will be repairing this injury mentally, which may in turn have an effect physically
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
So I think that's just kind of an interesting dynamic. And I think that also just like relates to life of like, there's different thoughts about being optimistic versus pessimistic. Would you rather be optimistic and wrong or pessimistic and right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
and I think um, there's something to be said about the power of optimism and positivity, not just in morale, but it could actually have bigger
You have
consequences.
healing powers.
Yeah, and I think that goes both ways, positive and negative.
Is there, and maybe this is too simplistic, but is there a piece of advice or wisdom or something you learned, let's say today, in talking to your mental fitness coach about that you'd like to impart on our listening audience?
About what subject specifically?
On just recovering from an injury.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Just one
I
tidbit.
can. Well, see, that's the thing I was just gonna say. I don't know if I can put it into one tidbit, but I could put it into a few kind of. I could put it into a sentence.
Okay.
I mean, I think it is just so important to understand that it is a non-linear process where there will be good days and there will be bad days. And if you remain consistent with your, work ethic and discipline and doing the right things and thinking the right way, things will eventually get right. And that's not to say if you do everything right, you will beat the doctor's timeline by X amount,
Right.
or,
Right.
guarantee this or that. But it's like, and this is, I think, true with a lot of things, is if you continue to do the right things over and over again, eventually you will get to where you need to go. And sometimes that's quicker than you thought. Sometimes it's slower. Sometimes, it's right on time, God's plan.
Yep.
But yeah, I just,
Yeah.
there will just an understanding that there will be good days, there will be bad days. Nothing is permanent. And if you continue to do the right things, things will get to where they need to go.
Patience and perseverance.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's so important. And this is something I wanted to bring up about kind of the new media. Shout out to the new media, Draymond with just kind of the emergence of all these athletes now in the media space and taking control of narratives. I was listening to JJ Redick's podcast, big fan of JJ Redick and his pod. Let me just give a quick shout out to some of these people that are influencing and inspiring us here at Marathon Minute. But Andre Iguodala and Evan Turner with Point Forward, really good podcast. Draymond Green show. I actually only listened to my first episode today. It was the post-championship one, but that was amazing. Just like listening to Clay get interviewed by Draymond and hearing his responses versus we watch Clay at the podium. And I mean, actually, he was pretty damn candid at the podium, but like he was more candid with Draymond, and you get a more truthful narrative and story when you hear Clay talking to Draymond versus Clay talking to a writer, you know? So I think that's an interesting thing to note when listening to these podcasts. So I listened to the Draymond show today. Shout out that. I listened to Andre Iguodala's Point Forward today. Listened to JJ Redick's yesterday with Grant Hill, and that was the episode I wanted to talk about a little bit. But, you know, shout out to all these athletes in the media space and just creating a space where you have control over the narrative, you know, and not like, and I think obviously we're in a different situation. I'm not an MBA. The microscope on me is much different, but I think just creating the space for it, you know, and a rising tide. What is it? A rising tide lifts all ships. And so to be, you know, an athlete in this space, trying to make my own mark on it, it is cool to have those kind of influences and inspirations that prove kind of the viability of it, you know?
You think athletes, and the podcast universe has really expanded in terms of athletes, mostly former. I think Draymond is very, and I guess Andre.
Yeah, there's a few
current.
Now that's the thing. That's also a good thing to note is there's a difference between former athletes getting into the media space, and now it's much more common for active athletes, you know?
Right.
Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala were not just putting out a podcast just with a guest that week. They were putting out a podcast the next morning or that night talking about the game, like from their perspective. Right. So, you know, that's just a really unique kind of shift in the landscape, which is pretty cool. And I'm hoping to do something similar in the soccer space, and not just in the soccer space, but the spaces that I operated in, which is, you know, soccer, creative, entrepreneurial, fashion, all that kind of stuff, be a bit of a kind of a bridge between those and provide a unique perspective. But even the reason that was quite a rant, but the reason why I even brought up the new media was, one, because I've been consuming a lot of it and I think it's just a cool transition, but also listening to JJ Redick's podcast with Grant Hill. You know, Grant Hill was dubbed the next Michael Jordan prior to a really bad ankle injury. And he talked about,
which I think he never recovered from.
Oh, I mean, he never fully recovered and he still had a Hall of Fame career, which is crazy. But like he talked about, they almost amputated his foot. Like it got so bad. He was out for so long. And I mean, I'm sure Clay probably had similar thoughts where it's like your mentality or your mindset of like needing to get back to the game changes, because like throughout that time also, he said like his wife was diagnosed with MS or something serious. And it's like, it just puts everything in perspective. Like getting to play a sport for a living is like, yes, a great blessing and opportunity. But it's like when your health is put at risk and you understand that like just to be alive is something, like he was saying his aspirations didn't go from, oh, I'm going to be the next Michael Jordan. It was like, oh, I just want to get back on the court, you know? So it's just interesting to hear kind of how people's perspectives shift throughout, you know, these types of situations. And
I imagine an athlete who has a serious injury, professional athlete, I suspect that they go through it, kind of what you were talking about, Max, the kind of progression of, hey, I want to get back on the court, on the field as soon as possible. And then the next progression is, okay, I'm willing to be patient, but I want to get back full strength. I want to be the athlete I was before the injury. And then the next progression is, I just want to get back out there.
Yeah.
And I can live with being 90, 80%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, very interesting dynamic. And I'm not putting myself into that category. I didn't almost get my leg amputated. But it's just interesting to hear these players' perspectives who are, playing at the highest level, playing under the biggest microscope, and, just hearing and not being inspired, but just learning about their experiences and trying to apply certain methods where I think could be valuable in my own experience.
Yeah, do you think athletes are more apt to be candid and open when they're being interviewed on a podcast by a colleague?
Oh, 100%. I think it's without a question. And I think that's something that is just part of the industry of media and journalism. And by no means did I ever study media or journalism, but I definitely have consumed a lot and enough to, I feel like, have this perspective. But part of being a good journalist or interviewer is getting your guests to feel comfortable and getting your guests to feel confident and open to discuss certain experiences or stories, and not to say you're trying to pry something out of someone unauthentically,
Right.
but it's more so the opposite. It's they feel so comfortable with you that this is going to be a real and authentic ass conversation, and not just, yeah, we really hustled hard and great team effort, the ball bounced our way, and yeah, we're champions. Like, I think that's something that is unique to now athletes stepping into the space, is you have that unique relationship already with people and the shared experience, which is really big. And I've talked about this with some people I've had on the podcast, and just some people. This is actually interesting. I ran into Ivan Rabb.
Yep.
Bishop O'Dowd player, played in the NBA for a bit.
Yep.
And I ran into him at a soccer game here in Oakland. And, we were just talking about experiences playing professionally. And we hope to have Ivan on the podcast at some point. But
I remember watching him play in high school and college.
Yeah. He's got a hell of a story.
Yeah.
And he's doing some amazing things in the community right now. He's holding a clinic this weekend. I think by the time this is out, it may have passed, but he's doing some really amazing things in the Oakland and East Bay community. But we were just talking about our experiences as pros. And I told him, like, oh, like, I didn't play in the NBA. I don't understand that microscope, but like, I understand some of these experiences that you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, because you've been through it, obviously at a different level, but there are certain shared experiences between all athletes, all professional athletes, where
absolutely,
that gives us, the ability to have a conversation on a certain level that, I'm sorry, Dad, I don't know if you would have been able to have that. Type of.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think there are certain shared experiences that are unique to certain professions. I think an athlete has certain experience that no other member of the public has. A trial lawyer might have
exactly.
A actor or actress. There are certain things that you have to be an insider to have a kind of a deep perspective on not so much the external, but the internal, really.
Yeah.
What goes through the mind.
A lot of the mental side of it. But yeah, I think that definitely plays a role in, why these interviews are different, or these conversations are different. And that's something that, we hope to do here. I think we do a really good job of it, is connecting with our guests, not just through the lens of we're here to do an interview. We more approach it from the perspective of we're here to have a conversation and get to learn about our guests, get to learn about their story, highlight aspects of them and their story that we know and we think are really interesting and inspiring, or want people to know.
Well, can we talk about the roots?
Yeah, definitely. We should.
Because we're now, what do you think? Are we midway?
I think we're actually officially halfway through the season.
Yeah, I guess it's not we, it's you.
I'm not but you're an honorary part of the family.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the Roots are about at the midpoint. You play 34 game season.
I believe so. Yeah.
And so give us the update on the Roots. Where are they on the table?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has happened in the last month. I think when we last, besides the Raheem episode, we didn't touch much about the Roots on the intro because we're going to save that for here. But prior to that, we were kind of, getting some ties, getting some results, playing really well, but not necessarily getting results. And then within the last month, a lot of those good performances have led to good results. I think there's a period we were unbeaten in 5, won 3 of those, tied 2 recently. Disappointing result against New Mexico. Anytime we're at home, we expect 3 points, just given the talent and team that we have. So that was disappointing. And then coming off another tie, but I think overall the trajectory we're on is still going in the right direction. I think we proved that, we're not just good performances, that our good performances can lead to good results. I think we proved that over the last month, and now it's about sustaining that. But also, I think we showed a lot of our character in the last month. How many, and I know it was stressful at times, but going down multiple times and battling back for a few ties, but battling back for also a few wins too. It just, it showed the fight and the character and the heart of this group, combined with the talent is a really scary thing. And I think, just a special moment to highlight, going back to that Orange County game, a really tough week for the team. Memo found out that his father passed away, and, sending all of our love to Memo and his family during this time. But, that hit the whole team. And that was a really tough emotional week for the team. And we played that game thinking about Memo, and we go down 2-1. You think, oh, this is, brutal. And we score a tying goal in the 88th minute. And then literally last kick of the game, Otar hits a magical free kick. And it just felt like it was out of a movie. It was divine. It just showed, like, I don't know, there was something bigger than us happening. That was for Memo and his family and his father. But that was a really special moment for the team that just showed, I think, of who we are as a group and what we're capable of when, we really want to be great.
Yeah, no, the last 2 months, and the Roots, I think, have only lost 1 game in the last 2 months. You've tied a bunch and you've won a bunch, but every game seems to have sort of the same kind of, I don't know what you would call it, sort of progression. The Roots will play well. They'll miss some opportunities to score a goal and get ahead. They'll get behind. The clock is ticking. It's ticking. And soccer, there's a clock. The game ends at when the clock strikes 90 minutes or 90 minutes plus stoppage time. And invariably, over the last 2 months, the Roots will score either the tying goal or the winning goal in the waning moments of the game as the clock. I mean, I think that's happened. Yeah. I think you've scored most of your goals in the last 5 minutes of the game.
There's definitely a stat I saw. We are leading the league by far in the most goals in the last 10 minutes or in stoppage time. I think they dubbed us like the cardiac Roots. Definitely, I don't know if that's a great nickname to have, that we're getting to this moment. Obviously it would be great for us to not have to claw back and have these dramatic late game finishes. And I think that's something obviously that, we'll look to not have be such a common theme. But I think, just thinking about the positives of the last month and a half is we really have shown not just the quality, but the character and the fight of this team. So, can we combine all of that for the second half of the season? We will see. And I'm confident that we will do a great job of that. And, like I said, we've continued to move in the right direction. And, I think when we put it all together, like I said, we're a scary team to play against, and teams will understand that now, the second half of the season. And on a personal note, I am itching to get back involved and, have my influence on that.
Yeah. Patience and perseverance. Yeah, no, I heard 2 people in the stands the other night. One said, "Oh boy, we're down 2-0." And the other one said, "No problem. There's 3 minutes left in the game." Yeah. And we'll come back and win 3-2. I mean, that's sort of the Roots season in a microcosm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, you're giving the fans their money's worth. I mean, I'm walking out of the stadium after these come from behind wins or come from behind ties, and I'm listening to the fans as they walk to the cars to the parking lot, and they're all, I mean,
Yeah, people
there
have a
is
great time.
enthusiasm there. It's, hey, if you have to tie a game, you might as well tie it in an exciting fashion, right? You're not giving up late
From a
goals, you're scoring
marketing
late goals.
standpoint,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're leaving the fans pretty happy and excited.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to touch on one last thing before I got to run.
Don't pull a muscle while you're running.
I don't mean literally run,
Okay.
but it's you got classic dad jokes recently.
Yeah.
But you know, it actually has to do with this lovely t-shirt that I'm wearing. It is our neighborhood sports club t-shirt. If you follow me on social media or have seen me at any of these games, I've been wearing this t-shirt a lot. Don't worry, I've been washing it or switching out the colors, you know, just to remain fresh. But it is a project that I feel like I can kind of officially start talking about publicly. Obviously, more details will be coming out as time goes on, but this is a project that's been in the works a long time. It is it's called Neighborhood Sports Club, founded by myself, my best friend and business partners, Dylan Autrin and Jordan DeSalva. But this is a indoor soccer facility with the cafe, bar, retail space, small gym space, community facing, purpose driven company that is coming to Oakland. You know, this is something we're really excited about. We think can have a major impact on not just the soccer community, but the Oakland community at large, be a really positive presence. And we're really excited about it. We've had one pop-up event in Alameda that was a few weeks ago, and we just secured our location for our second pop-up event, which will be in I guess I could say the date. It'll be July 17th. Stay tuned for more details about that. But yeah, Neighborhood Sports Club is a major project that I'm undertaking right now. It's not taking anything away from my soccer. We've talked enough about how I can be more than an athlete, but it is something that is very much an amazing project that I'm really passionate about, and you know, excited to bring so many aspects of what I do and what I'm about and people within the community together for something we feel will be truly special and great.
Yeah. Can I highlight a few things about your project?
I would love to. Yeah.
Okay.
Or I would love you to do it.
Well, I'll bring you my perspective. I coached soccer in Oakland, East Bay for 16 years. And I was also on the board and actually president of the soccer club for a long time, the soccer club that Max and Dylan played in, and called Bay Oaks. And throughout those 16 years, there was, you know, one common thing that ran through every season, which was we had a desperate shortage of field space.
Yep.
In Oakland, if there's an empty space, they don't put a soccer pitch in or a baseball field. They build a condominium or housing. And so we were always desperately short for practice fields, for playing fields. In fact, you know, we would have 3, 4, 5 teams share one soccer field to train on, and you get your little patch of grass. And it was not optimum. In fact, it was very suboptimum. There's a real shortage of fields. So what you're going to create is more playing fields.
Yeah.
Which is really needed.
Yeah. There's a shortage of field. There's no question. You know, that's one problem we are solving. But also it's just creating a place for this community to gather and embrace and enjoy the culture that surrounds the beautiful game. And so whether that be coming in to play, coming in to watch a game on TV, coming in to enjoy a latte, coming in to play in a men's league. Dad, you could play in a league. If you're a competitive youth player, you can come in and get training. Really just catering to the entire community.
By the way, the last time I played in the league, it was a co-ed indoor soccer league. I tore my Achilles, but that's another story. It's exciting to go into a neighborhood to create a new business and a place for people to gather and have fun. And
I think, you know, we've always known that the soccer culture in the East Bay Area at large is ever present. You know, you go to any of these youth tournaments, any of these major international games, they're packed. You know, the Bay Area has always had a soccer culture, and Oakland specifically, it's always had a soccer culture. But the emergence of the Roots really has shown that this community loves to come together and enjoy this culture. And, from us going to these games, we see that this is really one of the only times where this community can come together and gather and enjoy uh, the beautiful game and the culture surrounding it. And we want to create the hub for soccer culture and just Oakland culture, because this is for Oakland by Oakland,
Right.
Oakland natives doing something in Oakland and just creating a place for people to gather and embrace and enjoy this culture. So
Hence the name Neighborhood Sports Club.
yeah,
It's a
neighborhood
place
sports club
for the Oakland neighborhood to get together.
So stay tuned about that. I just wanted to, give a quick update on that now that, we feel that we're in a position as a business where we can start to have public facing events and begin to grow this community so that when we are open, people are well aware of who we are and what we are about. So stay tuned about details on that, details on the pop-up. This was a fun kind of like therapy session.
Your t-shirts
for us,
are fire.
we got great t-shirts.
great
Follow us
t-shirt.
on social, Neighborhood Sports Club on Instagram. Stay tuned for pop-up details, merchandise releases. We just restocked these cool shirts that I'm
They're
wearing
very
right
cool.
now. So take a look at those.
Are there investment opportunities?
Yeah, if you're listening to this and interested in investing, we are currently fundraising. If you are serious, hit my DMs or email me at, is it weird putting your email
I
out
don't
there?
think so.
maxorangeville@gmail.com. Hopefully I don't get any weird emails, but if you're serious about, just getting involved in the project in any way, let me know. And yeah, this was a fun exercise for us, Dad. Just,
Yeah.
chopping it up and giving the people a bit of an update. Hopefully, now that some things have settled down a little bit, still crazy times, but we are working to get interviews done, streamlining our editing process, our promotion process a bit, so I can focus a bit more just on the, actual conversations and continue to grow this, because we feel that this is very valuable and this is a fun project for us that we're passionate about. So
And we're getting tremendous amount of, well, maybe tremendous is exaggeration, hyperbolic, but we are getting a lot of very positive feedback. I love when I meet someone and they say, "Oh yeah, I saw you on YouTube podcast," or "I listened to the pod at Marathon Minute." We're getting a lot of positive feedback, which we appreciate.
Yeah, we appreciate all the feedback.
It's very flattering.
All the support goes a long way. So please, if you could continue to, if you have a chance to give 5 stars, throw us 5 stars, hit a subscribe. If you are helping your grandma use her phone, subscribe on your grandma's phone to Marathon Minute. She won't know.
Plus,
help us out.
We have a lot of episodes that would be very grandma centric.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah.
Hey, your grandma listens.
My grandma listens, so could yours. But yeah, all the support means a lot, and stay tuned. We got more coming.
You know what I think I'm going to do right now?
Oh gosh.
I think I'm going to have a bowl of Cafe Fanny, and then
yes, brought to you by Cafe Fanny.
The last quarter of the Warrior
That
game,
sounds like a dream,
and I sure hope they won. Spoiler alert. Oh, I guess they won, but
4-time champions. In the last 8 years. Yeah, let's go.
I'll take that.
Let's go. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yep.
All right, we'll check in with you soon.
Marathon Minute loves the Warriors, loves the Roots, loves Neighborhood Sports Club.
All right, peace.